Hi everyone, Newthany1's Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of this new Suicide Boys album, New World Depression. Yep, here's the newest full-length LP, official fourth full-length album from New Orleans hip-hop duo Suicide Boys, which of course features Scrim as well as Ruby DeCherry, who may not be some of the most widely discussed or viral artists in the rap genre, but they're still an important and vital success story when it comes to the internet rap boom of the 2010s, especially in regards to the SoundCloud-based leg of it, which, to do an in-depth analysis on that in this video would take forever. But just know that during this time, you had numerous trends in the rap sphere, all coalescing, some of which were new, others were more revivalist in nature. And on their earliest mixtapes and EPs, Suicide Boys were definitely more on the revival side of things, bringing back this slow, lazy, chill, grim style of Southern hip-hop with kind of a splash of horrorcore. Very, very, very indebted to artists like 3 6 Mafia, as well as Midwest legends like Bone Thugs and Harmony with all of the melodic triplet flows. And while Suicide Boys were not the only artists kind of bringing this sound back in the early and mid-2010s, they've certainly proven themselves to be the most devoted to that sound over the years, as a lot of artists who were kind of blowing up off of it early on have since kind of washed out with the trendy tides or have moved on to other things. But here's Suicide Boys with this ever-growing run of very prolifically released projects and singles, much of which kind of points in that stylistic direction. And that level of just unbroken consistency has its pros and its cons. Some might say the duo is creatively stagnant at this point, but you can't really deny that what they're doing is still working for them. As a duo, they've pretty much been independent for over a decade now, and their records continue to do big numbers. I mean, this LP here was one of the biggest releases of the week, netting tens of thousands of sales, which is pretty surprising for a group that is not on a label. Suicide Boys also continue to sport millions and millions and millions of monthly listeners across all streaming platforms, with their past 3 official albums all being RIAA certified gold. And it looks like this new one here is going to hit a similar peak too at some point. And that's surprising considering that this record is just 13 tracks and 34 minutes in length. You can't really accuse the duo of overpacking this album or doing any kind of like stream trolling or any sort of industry trickery to force more engagement. I mean, while there are a fair amount of shorter tracks on this record, that's kind of also how the duo has been doing their stuff for a long time, even when you go back to their early SoundCloud stuff. So yeah, you may not like what they do, but Suicide Boys are still doing massive numbers to this day, while simultaneously doing pretty much nothing to make their sound and their image more commercially appealing or watered down. I mean, in their very lyrics, the duo frequently flexes the fact that they rarely do photos or music videos. And I mean, honestly, this kind of consistency, this kind of adherence to an artistic vision and seeing an artist do well at that, it's the kind of success story you want to see in the music industry on a more regular basis. So on all of those fronts, I can most definitely commend Suicide Boys for what they do, even if I'm not a fan. I mean, I know that some of their fans have not been happy with my takes on their music in the past, which is also true to an extent of the duo itself. But I mean, know that the criticisms I have don't come from a place of personal disrespect or hatred, because again, even if I'm not massively into the music these guys record, I'm still surprised and still impressed at the brand and the livelihood they've been able to build with it. It's because of these things when I usually go into a Suicide Boys album, I want to hear good things. I want to hear stuff that appeals to me. But honestly, after listening to this new record multiple times over, it pretty much just feels like business as usual, which could could be a good or a bad thing depending on where you sit. The production across this thing features a lot of very straightforward grooves with a throwback southern feel, very low key. At some points I've picked up that the production is a little improved in terms of bringing samples and synths and atmospheres that are a tad bit slicker, softer, prettier, which is great, but on the songwriting front, the duo is pretty much doing their usual thing. The structures, the cohesion, the focus is all quite sketchy. A lot of tracks are just very scant and short-winded. Doesn't even really matter if they hit the 2-minute mark, which at this point is just kind of, regular Suicide Boys fare. They also continue their aversion for the most part to big, memorable anthemic choruses. It's almost like they're trying to avoid being catchy and would rather present themselves in a way that is just obscured, hazy, kind of dodgy. The vocals and flows across the record are given a similar treatment as well. It's kind of like if you took the ad-libbed vocal from a track and just kind of made that the lead vocal instead. So it's there, but it's not super clear or present or in your face. And as a result, the energy, the enjoyability factor of these tracks, it's more about the cold-blooded vibes than it is about eating up every lyric or every detail on the beat, which certainly makes Suicide Boys music on this record listenable, overtly eerie. Lyrically, there are also some bold allusions to depression, drugs, money, guns, sex, being kind of white trash, and murder as well, but in a creepy stalker serial killer sort of way. And while these themes are certainly there, none of them are expanded upon to the point where the duo's really making any definitive statements on them. And looking at some of the deep cuts on this record, I could see why the duo continues to keep things a little surface level, especially with the track Transgressions. This is really the first attempt on the record, to my ears, at delivering a vocal and a few verses that feel genuinely anguished and sort of lyrically focused, but the end result is a performance where the flows feel really awkward, and you also get bars like this that are just kind of head scratchers. I will say this though, the track The Light at the End of the Tunnel is actually a kind of sad, harrowing, and powerful bit of commentary on addiction and chasing after highs, and the Drag 'Em to the River remix on the back end of this thing does sound hard as hell. Plus the melodic vocal lines on Are You Going to See the Rose in the Vase, they are legitimately catchy, reaching out for help, in a way that kind of makes me wish that the duo engaged in this kind of song structuring a bit more, especially given the lyrical focus on the track too, that sees the duo kind of reflecting on moments in the past, dealing with this general inability to operate within romantic relationships, and just generally feeling like you are in a rut in life. The final moments of this record though are not super memorable or impressive. There's Us v Them, which kind of sounds like what Suicide Boys would do if they were trying to make a Griselda track with the big boom bap beats and the odd piano lines, but I'm not sure it's quite their style. Then the closing track, while it does have some soaring vocal lines here and there, it just kind of feels like very standard stylistically for Suicide Boys. Kind of an attempt at ending things off in a big or ambitious way, but it doesn't go quite far enough. And it's with that, I just have to say this very short and to the point record from Suicide Boys is just okay. It's fine. It's listenable in the grander scheme of their catalog. Considering how much music they've made that sounds a lot like this, it doesn't really add that much. But clearly the duo has a relationship with their fan base, their very strong and passionate fan base at this point, that pretty much does nothing other than just demand more of the same from them, which, I mean, if ultimately that's what they want to hear and that's what they want to get and the boys are happy to give it to them, then I guess why not? And I'm certainly not going to say the duo's music is lacking completely in substance or is just kind of meaningless. There is something there in terms of emotion and depth. Suicide Boys most definitely have a sound, a vibe, and appeal, but when I actually go to listen to their records, I just kind of find myself wanting more detail out of the beats, wanting more variation and diversity across the record, wanting more structure, more length, more ambition. But you know what? They still have a distinct sound, and if that's the vibe and that's the energy that you're looking for, this record is going to deliver it to you. No more, no less. So I'm feeling a strong 5 to a light 6 on this one. Tran. Zishin, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or a link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Suicide Boys, forever.